Okay everyone, let's get started with our tie-dye book art. So to get started, you need one of these awesome book templates, some book clip art. You can draw your own if you want. You don't have to use these, but here are just some ideas to get you started. And I found a cute little ghost one for myself. You know. And then you need the plexi or glass from the frame. I think these are all plexi, at least the ones that I'm opening right now. And your Sharpie marker. And so all you're going to do first and foremost is trace your design. And you may need to do it more than once to make sure that the design is really opaque and a solid black. But go ahead and just take your time and have fun with it. Trace, put on a movie, some music, a podcast, whatever it is you would like, and just go ahead and get started. So the Sharpie tip that we have, it's this big chisel tip. So it fills in wherever you need it to, but you can also just have a fine tip by using just the point. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and trace mine out, and then I'll show you the watercolor fun, and this is a really quick and easy one. So you can kind of see on the white, that some of this is not totally black and dark. You can go over your lines. I'm just going to flip it over now so I can kind of see. There are a couple spots in here where it's not completely filled in, so I'm going to go in, fill it in, make sure everything is as dark and black as I would like it to be, and touch up any of my lines. If you're like me, you can't draw a straight line even when tracing to save your life, so you can touch it up now if you would like. Don't be afraid to pull out a ruler. I didn't do, and again, you can come up with your own design if you don't want to use any clip art ones, but we are coming out of National Library Week, and so I did want to do something book related. And now I have my watercolor paper. I have my water here, paintbrush. So the watercolors, you have them in the little tiny cups, and I really only took about 4 drops for each color, and you can experiment with this and decide what you want to do if you need more or less saturation, but I think it's pretty potent. So I'm going to wet my paper. Because we're doing kind of a tie-dye thing, we're not looking for anything precise. So I'm going to wet my watercolor paper. This paper is obviously much bigger than ours is, but then that way you can kind of cut out the portion that you like the best. Or you can cut the piece off and use part of it to test out your watercolor skills. And so, remember, we are doing tie-dye, so we're doing big splashes of color. When it dries down, it will stay in really cool patterns. Alright, so I'm going to start and just go for it. Make sure your pigment's mixed up. You can see it kind of settles to the bottom. I'm just going to mix it up. These little water cups are only about a tablespoon worth of water. Those 3 or 4 drops, like I said. The cool thing, the more water you have on your page, the more it spreads out. And if you put a drop of color next to a place where you've already added some water, they kind of bleed and blend into each other. as you can see there was a lot of water. Here there was not as much water, but I can add. See how they bleed and blend into each other, and it's pretty cool. So you can really control, depending on how wet your paper is, where your colors are going to go. And you can continue to lay down more water as you go. It's not like a once it dries, that's it, you're stuck kind of a thing. Look at that, super cool. So I'm just going to keep going and playing with my color placement and just having fun. Until I like the look of what I've got. And you can also do layers, so see how sometimes it starts to dry and then you can go back over it and re-wet the paper with new pigment, and it gives you different layers of texture in there. So just play around and have fun. And even purposefully create channels of water to lead your pigment to a certain place that you might want it to go. Because look how the pigment follows the trail that you've created. I always say that painting is just a lot of layering. This is kind of a mess, but I kind of love it. But as parts dry, you can go back in and add more layers. Right now I'm kind of working with all one fairly similar color palette, but once this dries entirely, I will go back in and add some contrast with another color. Periodically, I recommend grabbing your traced plexi and putting it on top of your design and deciding, do I like it? Do I know that the books are right in the middle, so maybe that's where I want to add my contrasting colors? Do I want more background? It's like pretty dry in the center here, so I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to maybe add, do I want to do yellow? I'm afraid everything will turn brown because that's a lot of contrast, but I don't have any green on here, so maybe I want to put a little bit of green right in the center. And I'm going to continue to use my little plexi, my little traced image. And you don't have to be nearly as precise as I'm doing. I'm just telling you that. Oh, that does look cool. That's a neat little punch. But especially if you're doing a different image like the flowers or the planets or anything else, you know, put the color where you want it to go. So see now, it's going to look like that. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry completely. I think I kind of want to leave it as is. I don't want to mess with it anymore. I have some fun patterns on here. And then I'm going to cut it out and put it in the frame as that.